I got 10 players that you need in fantasy football this year in 10 minutes. That's right, I'm doing it Mr. Beast style. The first player that I will be drafting everywhere is Deontay Johnson. Wide receiver 45 on Underdog. Are you kidding me right now? Last year, the Panthers had a wide receiver finish top 17 in fantasy football. That wide receiver was Adam Thielen, who averaged 13.6 PPR points per game on 8 targets per game. I view Deontay Johnson as an upgraded version of Adam Thielen in this offense. In Deontay's first 5 years, he is averaging 8.3 targets per game. This team needs an elite separator so Bryce can get the ball to that player. That is Deontay Johnson. In my humble opinion, I will be drafting him everywhere. He's going to outperform his ADP. All right, second player, Brian Robinson Jr., Washington Commanders running back. With this backfield, you're going to have to call your shot. I'm calling my shot, and I'm drafting B-Rob everywhere that I can. I believe he'll be the first and second down back as well as the goal line back, and Eckler will be more involved in the air. Last year, Brian Robinson on a per game basis averaged 13.2 PPR points, which was 22nd best amongst running backs. He did all of that despite being on one of the league's worst offenses. The Commanders were bottom 8 in offensive points per game. Meanwhile, you got Austin Eckler, who is more expensive in drafts and had his least efficient season ever last year in 2023. At RB34 prices, I'll take B-Rob in a ton of drafts. The third player, how about Evan Ingram? You know, you always hear volume is king in fantasy football. Well, let me tell you who was the volume king last year at the tight end spot. That was Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram last year led tight ends in targets, led tight ends in receptions, and was third in receiving yards. And while this team just drafted a wide receiver in round 1 in Brian Thomas Jr., they also just lost their alpha in Calvin Ridley to the Tennessee Titans. Calvin Ridley, 136 targets, right behind Evan Ingram. He's gone. They got a rookie who has to kind of take his step in. Evan Ingram is going to be on a ton of my teams at tight end 8 prices. The fourth player, Amari Cooper. What does this guy got to do to get some damn respect? Wide receiver 29 on Underdog. In the last 2 seasons, Amari Cooper has played football with PJ Walker, rookie Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Jeff Driscoll, and Jacoby Brissett. He's also played a handful of games with Joe Flacco and Deshaun Watson. Yet in those 2 years, he has still been the wide receiver 17 on a per game basis in back-to-back years. Judy has never been a dominant wide receiver, and Amari always has. Do not overthink this one. Amari Cooper is one of the most underpriced wide receivers on all of Underdog. Speaking of Underdog, if you like drafting, you gotta try Underdog Best Ball Drafts. It is the funnest way to consume the offseason as we get closer to redraft season. If you haven't signed up, use the code LAND for a 50% deposit match up to $250. So if you think about it, you could get $125 for free just by using our code. Check the pinned comment. All right, the fifth player. How about Justin Herbert? Quarterback 17. Quarterback 17? I mean, I get it. He lost Mike Williams. He lost Keenan Allen, and this team is going to run the ball. But that is so disrespectful, it's not even funny. Think about it. Last year, he had Mike Williams, who tore his ACL. He didn't have Keenan Allen the entire year, and he still finished as a quarterback 8 on a per game basis. Even in games in Justin Herbert's career without Keenan Allen, he has still averaged over 20 points per game. Y'all are acting like he's going to throw the ball 15 times. Quarterback 17? Come on. All right. The sixth player I'm going to tell you guys about here is Jaylen Polk, the rookie wide receiver for the New England Patriots. Wide receiver 70 on Underdog. That is crazy. Draft as much Jaylen Polk as you possibly can. I know I will be. The Patriots drafted Jaylen Polk over Adonai Mitchell, Roman Wilson, Jalen McMillan, Jermaine Burton, Troy Franklin, and Javon Baker, who's also a great pick. Round 2, pick 37, early second round in a stacked offensive class. This all comes down to price. At wide receiver 70 prices, you are virtually risking nothing to draft Jaylen Polk here in New England, and he could be the team's #1 wide receiver with a rookie quarterback that he's going to build chemistry at rookie camp, OTAs, the entire offseason. My pro comp for Jaylen Polk coming out of Washington was Zay Jones. Think about those years Zay Jones had with Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. There were some pretty productive seasons. I think he can do something similar in New England, Jaylen Polk, that is. All right, the seventh player. Drop the like button if you don't mind. I feel like I'm absolutely smashing this right now. 10 and under 10. Hit the like button to show some love. Subscribe as we got fantasy football season coming up. Let's talk Devin Singletary, RB 35 on Underdog right now. Let's get one thing straight. The New York Giants are probably going to be absolute cheeks on offense in 2024, okay? But you are getting an RB1 at RB 35 prices. Remember, Devin Singletary is no scrub on his own, right? Last year, he put up some impressive performances for the Texans last year. He became the starter in week 8 versus Carolina. Week 9, versus Tampa Bay. And from week 9 onwards, he was 3rd in rushing yards amongst running backs, 13th in fantasy points, and 20th in fantasy points per game. Now, he's going to an offense in New York that's going to be much worse than what he was on in Houston, but you are still paying RB 35 prices for a guy who's going to lead his team in volume at the running back position. One of the cheapest RB1s you'll find in the entire draft. All right, the 8th player, a little bit of a homer pick. I'm not a Seahawks fan, but I love this guy over on our Dynasty channel last year. Jackson Smith-Njigba, let's be honest, the rookie season was not good. It was underwhelming, but most of it wasn't really his fault. In fact, we have strong reason to believe that him and his old offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, who is now in Chicago, were not on the same page, and they did not like each other because Jackson Smith-Njigba had nothing kind to say about that guy in an interview this offseason. Seahawks just got a new offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb. If that sounds familiar, that's because he is the Washington Huskies' old offensive coordinator who they just hired. The same offensive coordinator who helped Rome Odunze get drafted top 10, Jaylen Polk go early round 2, and Jalen McMillan day 2, all in the same draft. This guy knows how to deploy wide receivers successfully. I think Jason was widely misused last year, and that's going to change. Bet on the breakout, bet on the talent. 9th player here, Kendra Miller, running back for the New Orleans Saints, RB 47 on Underdog. This comes down to one thing. The Saints offense has to change. The New Orleans offense can no longer be 10 check down targets to Alvin Kamara and a healthy dose of inaccurate deep balls to Chris Olave. It has got to change, and clearly New Orleans agrees because they changed their offensive coordinator. They've got a new offensive coordinator in town, Clint Kubiak, from San Francisco. And while Alvin Kamara was really good for fantasy last year, he was actually really inefficient on the ground. What he got through the air through those checkdowns as a receiver is what saved his fantasy season because he was really bad on the ground. Look at how inefficient he was. You can see where he ranks amongst the rest of the NFL. I believe Kendra Miller gets another dose, another opportunity here in year 2 as he's finally healthy. And he should be an important part of this run offense on the ground. All right, the 10th player that I'm going to be drafting for you guys, or I'll be drafting, you should too, is Ladd McConkey, Georgia wide receiver, the rookie out of this class. This is simple. Ladd McConkey can separate with the best guys in this rookie class. The rookie wide receivers who put up numbers, who produce in their rookie years, those are the guys that can separate straight out of college. Think about it. Jordan Addison last year, Tank Dell, Zay Flowers, Puka Nacua, Josh Downs. How about the guys who don't produce, the guys who can't separate coming out of out of college? Quentin Johnson, Treylon Burks, Jonathan Mingo. This team just lost Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, and Gerald Everett. Their top 4 target earners are all gone. And I'm going to bet on Ladd McConkey to be that guy for this offense. So maybe you bet on him too, just like me. Hey, I got some honorable mentions for you here. Travis Etienne at RB11. Remember, he had a top 5 season last year. Ken Walker, I think, is just constantly being undervalued. Tajay Spears, I'm going to bet on Tajay Spears over Tony Pollard based off the prices right now. Nick Chubb could be one of the bounce back candidates of the year. Malik Neighbors, one of my favorite rookies. Tank Dell should outperform his ADP. George Pickens, and then Calvin Ridley. They just signed this guy to a huge contract. Wide receiver 37? He's worth more than wide receiver 37 prices. By the way, if you want to support this channel, you can like the video, you can subscribe, and you can also become a Mother Flocker member with the promo code LAND on the Flock Fantasy website. You'll get our rankings for best ball, for redraft, for dynasty, for one quarterback, for superflex. You also get a team review from us on a live stream. You'll get a DM to us for advice. Everything else that you could need to have a successful fantasy season is provided by us over on the Flock Fantasy website. How did I do?
10 and 10. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy, even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.